Lawrence O'Donnell is on the line with us. He is the host, of course, of The Last Word, the must-see MSNBC show every night. He's also the author of the new book, Playing with Fire, the 1968 election and the transforming of American politics. We made this our book of the day, our book club. I read about a 5-minute excerpt of it at the very beginning of our show here today. Lawrence, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Tom, great to be here. I really appreciate it.
It is so great having you on. I mean, you and this show go way, way back, and it's great having you here with us. Tell us about your new book.
Well, you know, when I was sitting down and read a book, I asked myself, what is the most dramatic political story I know, using all of my drama instincts that I developed as a writer for The West Wing and other television dramas. And it was very, very simple after about 90 seconds of thought. It was the 1968 presidential election, which I watched as a high school kid, sitting on my living room floor with my parents and my older brothers, watching the Democratic Convention, watching the campaign coverage, watching the coverage of the war in Vietnam at the same time, which was defining the presidential campaign, watching this horrible and painful coverage of these dramatic events like the assassination of Martin Luther King in 1968, followed just weeks later by the assassination of Bobby Kennedy on what was the biggest winning night of his life. He had won the California primary. He seemed poised to be ready to go on to get the Democratic nomination in Chicago, and was shot and assassinated that night. And so living through it was a drama. It was a drama more powerful, more dramatic, more gut-wrenching than the drama that we live through every day in the Trump presidency, which is more, when you compare it to 68, this is more of a melodrama. It's more of a soap opera drama. A very strange first lady suddenly entering the firing business, suddenly assuming the powers of the presidency to fire people at the White House who work
on the national security side.
Statements. Yeah, I mean, you know, so that stuff is all. That's just all crazy stuff. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. The truth is, it doesn't matter to anyone whether Melania Trump fires the Deputy National Security Advisor chosen by John Bolton, or whether Donald Trump fires that person, or whether John Bolton fires that person, or whether that person quits, because it's a 100% completely incompetent operation, no matter who's sitting in those chairs. And yet, it feels like dramatic news when, in fact, it's really just melodramatic. What was happening in 1968 was genuinely dramatic. It was life-threatening to all of us in some way. If you didn't have a draft card in your pocket, then your older brothers did, or your boyfriend did, or your cousin did, or your uncle did, or your nephew did, or your grandson did, and you were terrified that your grandson might be shipped out against his will to Vietnam to die. And in 1968 alone, over 16,000 American families had military funerals for their loved ones killed in Vietnam. I went to my first military funeral in 1968 for my cousin Johnny, who had just graduated from West Point and survived 90 days in Vietnam, got a Silver Star, and got killed on that final day in Vietnam.
Oh my.
And so the threat, the darkness that we were living under then was much worse, much more serious, involved the lives and deaths of our own loved ones. That's what was at stake. And today's darkness is different. It's oppressive. It's awful. It is. We can go on forever describing it, but if you're old enough, you know that it was once worse, and we came through that.
Yes, amen. And that's one of the things that keeps me going, too. Lawrence, two of the things in your book that I found so compelling, we're talking with Lawrence O'Donnell. He's got a brand new book out. It's called Playing with Fire. It's about the 68 election. One was how Roger Ailes hooked up with Donald Trump, first on the Merv Griffin show, as I recall, and then later, just before he, and that was around the time of the 1960 election, which Nixon lost by a whisker, and then again in 68, and basically became the man, Roger Ailes became the man who made Richard Nixon president. And that was a very grim foreshadowing for me. And then the other one was your description of Bobby Kennedy, the guy with the longest hair in the United States Senate. And your descriptions of Bobby Kennedy throughout the book are just beautiful. I mean, just elegant, so elegant. But the thing that the person I keep thinking about when I read your descriptions of RFK is Beto O'Rourke. And I'm wondering if that rings for you too, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you wrote about Ailes and Nixon and the impact of television and obviously Fox News.
Yeah. So.
And we have about 3 minutes until we hit a hard break,
okay.
Lawrence.
Nixon pulls Roger Ailes out of entertainment television into his presidential campaign in 1968 because he likes what Ailes knows about TV. Ailes then becomes the most successful Republican campaign consultant in history. He helps elect Nixon twice, helps elect Reagan twice, helps elect the first President Bush, helps elect the second President Bush by creating Fox News in the 1990s that becomes a Republican support television network, the ultimate dream of Roger Ailes' political influence on television. We would not have Donald Trump today as president if Roger Ailes had not created and run Fox News. When I saw Beto O'Rourke in Austin during the campaign in front of that huge crowd, and when I saw him do a tough question and answer interview in front of an audience in a theater of about 1,000 people, I sat there thinking I was seeing the 21st century Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy is exactly who I thought about. Exactly who I thought about when I watched Beto O'Rourke.
That's nice to have my instincts validated. How do you think this whole political moment is going to play out? It seems to me like Trump has just gone into withdrawal over the last few days, and his followers, I was riffing about this before you came on, his followers are authoritarian followers. They want an authoritarian leader who's a big winner so that they feel safe, and Trump is now a loser, and he's hiding out and complaining and whining, and we saw, an 8-point drop in his popularity since the election. I think that's because the authoritarian followers are saying, he's not the big daddy anymore. I can't follow him. What do you think?
Yeah, he without winning, what is he? And so, look, the first time the voters got a chance to rebuke Trumpism, to stop it, they did. They gave the House of Representatives to the Democrats. The Democrats' mandate from those voters is make sure nothing bad happens. Those voters are not expecting a Democratic House to be able to legislate things that then pass Mitch McConnell's Senate and get signed by the craziest president in history. They're not expecting that. The job is vote no. The job is stop anything that Donald Trump wants to do legislatively. So we know now that Trump legislation is dead in the Congress because it is dead in the House of Representatives. So we are now spared. One huge worry has been taken away. Donald Trump cannot legislate anything for the remainder of his presidency, not one thing.
And thank God
now
for
there's
it.
more to do. And that's the next stage of the Democratic resistance to Trump. And they are well on track to win back the Senate, well on track to win back the presidency.
There you go. Check out Lawrence O'Donnell's new book, Playing with Fire, the 1968 election, the transformation of American politics. And, of course, check out his show on MSNBC, The Last Word, every weekday night. Lawrence, thanks so much for dropping by. Good luck.
Thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be right back.